Hello and welcome to Art with Miss Michelle. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a sloth, my favorite animal. Sloths live in the rainforest and there's two types of sloths. There are three-toed sloths and I think they have a little bit more of a smile than their two-toed friends. Let's see where the two-toed sloth is. Here's a nice example of the two-toed sloth. And the most obvious difference is the number of toes. So the two-toed sloth has 2 toes, and the three-toed sloth has 3. Now, the two-toed sloth has its mask. It has a little bit of a mask, but it's more in the middle of their face, right in between their eyes and around their nose. Whereas the three-toed sloth has their mask. Let's find my other picture here. So the three-toed sloth has 3 toes. You can kind of see their long claws right there. And their mask is more on the side of their face. And they have a little bit of a dark spot around their nose. Now, sloths are really interesting. They're the slowest mammal. They're actually not quite as slow as everyone thinks they are. They just can't really use their back legs. So if they're on the ground, they're extremely slow, but in the trees they can move pretty fast because they use their front arms to swing from the trees and crawl through the trees. They spend most of their lives in the trees. So they pretty much do everything. They eat, they give birth in trees, they sleep in trees, they hang in trees all the time. So much so that their fur actually grows in a way to let water, if they get rained on, the water can kind of just go through their fur and just drip down from their backs. And the only time they actually come out of the trees is about once a week. They come down to go to the bathroom. And they're the most vulnerable when they're on the ground. Their digestive system is so slow that they only go about once a week. And another really cool thing about them is that they carry their babies on their chest for about 6 to 9 months after they're born. So here's an example of the two-toed sloth, and it has its baby right on its belly there. So I'm going to show you how to draw a three-toed sloth. Okay, so I have my sketchbook here. I have some colored pencils. I have tan, some warm grays, and a few different browns. And I have a picture to look at. I might not copy this exactly, but it's nice to have the picture to look at, even if you know how something looks, because then you can notice small details like the direction of their fur, different details like about their face and stuff. So I always like to have a reference picture. Not always, but a lot of the time it helps me draw realistically. So I'm just going to get a light color to outline. And I'm going to start with the head. So I notice my sloth's head is actually almost a perfect circle. So I'm going to draw a circle here. I'm going to leave some room above for his arms. And some room below for his back, because his back hangs down lower than his head. So I'm going to get the head there. And then I notice his back comes down quite a bit lower. And it's a curved line, and it kind of curves up into his back leg there. So I'm going to draw that curved line, a very large curve. And then it's going to curve back up and round up into his back leg. And then I'm going to draw the legs. So I always like to draw the things that are closer to me first. So these legs are closer, then I'm going to draw his belly, and then I'll add the branch and the back legs behind the branch. So the legs are a lot fatter at the bottom where the hips and shoulders are, and then they get skinnier and go up into the feet. And then same with his shoulder down here, so he has a pretty big shoulder here. And that's where all the muscle is to hang on to the tree. Then it's going to get skinnier and go up onto the foot. Now notice how I'm just drawing multiple lines. If I decide I want something a little bit wider, I can just draw another line. I don't have to erase everything that I drew. And then when I color this all in with the fur, you're not even going to see those lines, so I don't have to worry about that. So now I'm going to draw the belly right behind those legs there. And then I can see, I'm going to draw a little bit of the leg, the back legs behind the tree, or sorry, behind the sloth. Then I'm going to add the tree branch. So I'm going to draw the tree branch, and then I'm going to stop on one end of his foot, and I'm just going to hold my pencil above and then put it back down on the other side so I can kind of line that up there. And this foot's a little bit taller, but guess what? Tree branches aren't perfectly straight, so I can just make it curve a little bit. And then I'm actually going to leave a little bit of room here for his toes. And I can go back and adjust that if I need to. So I notice the toes kind of curl up over the branch here, his foot and toes. And I'm going to make sure I get all three of them for my three-toed sloth, so that I can just come back and add this little branch. So I'm going to get a lighter color for the toes. And he actually has pretty long claws here, so I'm going to make 3 long claws. And I'm going to kind of curl them around the branch because he has his toes curled around the branch to hang on. So these toes help them hang on to the branches, and it's also pretty much their only defense against any kind of predators that they might run into. So they're pretty sharp, long claws that helps them swing from the trees. But I'm going to get a darker color, and I'm going to add some shading in between so you can see the separation of the toes. And I'm also going to add a little bit of shading at the end there to make that stand out a bit more. And I'm just going to do that on both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the face. So I notice his face is the lightest part on him. So I'm going to get my light tan color. And he has a lot of hair above his face here, so I'm going to leave some room up here so I can draw that hair. And I'm just going to do a light colored circle for the face. Okay, before I color that in, I'm going to add the eyes. So his eyes are pretty far apart. And his eyes are not quite round. They're mostly round, but they have a little bit of a point on the edges. And then I'm going to draw his mask. So his mask kind of circles the inside of the eyes. And then it goes down, and it looks like it goes about to the edge of his head over here. So I'm going to draw that on both sides. And then color that in with my dark brown. And then his nose looks like it's the same color. And his nose also is kind of round on the top and bottom, and then comes to a point on the side. So I'm going to add that. And then I'm going to take my black and add the nostrils. And I'm going to color the eyes in black. And I'm going to add the smile. I'm gonna make this one have a little bit more of a smile than it looks like in the picture. That's one of my favorite things about sloths. It always looks like they have a great big smile on their face. So I want to make sure I represent that in my picture. And then I'm going to give him a little bit of an outline with his smile. The darkness around his smile doesn't look quite as dark as the mask. So I'm just going to not push down quite as hard with my pencil when I color that in. So it's going to look like the same color but not quite as dark. And then I'm going to color my nose in brown. The nose is pretty dark, so I can press down hard again. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the lighter above the nose. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my tan color. And I'm going to color in the rest of the face here. So then the rest of him is pretty much just fur. And I forgot the tail, so I'm going to add the tail in here. He has kind of a short, fat tail. So I'm just going to draw that in right there. Now, before I start adding the fur, I'm going to choose my lightest color. Well, not my lightest color, but my lightest gray here. And I'm just going to color everything in. So that way, when I draw the fur, I won't see any white underneath. So then I can leave a little bit of space in between my fur so I can see the individual hairs and make it look realistic. So once that is all colored in, I'm going to go back and get my different grays, or sorry, my different browns and my tan. Okay, so I'm going to start with my darkest brown, and I'm going to add a little bit of shading under his neck down here and around the shoulder and the hip. So that's going to kind of show the edges of the arms and the head. And I'll add a little bit more here so it doesn't just all look like one blob. So I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to look at my sloth picture and see what direction their fur grows. So on the head, it looks like in the middle of the head, on one side, it grows towards the right. On the other side, it grows towards the left, and it kind of goes around the shape of the head. So I'm going to start with my lighter brown, and I'm going to start adding. I'm going to do some short individual lines for the hairs. And I'm just going to kind of follow the shape of the head here, all the way around. Then I'm going to take my darker color and add another layer, and that's going to give it a lot of texture. So now on his arms, the fur looks like it kind of curves around with the arm near his hand, but then on the shoulder it starts growing down, so that way if he gets rained on, the rain can just kind of go over his body, pass through him, and then continue onto the ground. So I notice he has some lighter fur in the middle of his arm going onto his back, so I'm going to do those light places first. And it helps if you have a really sharp pencil when doing stuff like fur or hair or eyelashes, because that's going to help you get the best kind of lines. Okay, so now I'm going to switch colors. And I'm just going to keep doing these short, fast lines for the fur. And I'm probably going to do 2 or 3 colors. And that's going to give it a lot of depth and texture and make it look really realistic. And I can add a little bit of dark back here to show the separation between his front leg and his back leg. And then I'm just going to add one more color to the darker spots. And I'm also doing my lines in different directions, because that's going to make it look a little bit more realistic, give it a little bit more texture. I know his hair is growing down, but it's not all just the same exact direction, so if I alter the direction a little bit, it's going to help make it look a little bit more realistic too. Okay, so now I'm going to start coloring my branch. So I saved this brown. It's a little bit more warm than the other colors, and that is going to stand out more so it doesn't look like he's the exact same color as the branch. And then if I want to give the branch a little bit more texture, I can take one of the other browns and add that too. So he will be able to camouflage a little bit in with the branch. And then if I want to, I can go in and add a bunch of leaves. So he looks like he's in a lush green rainforest just hanging out here. Okay, well, he looks like he's just about finished. I won't make you watch me draw the whole background, but here's my sloth. I hope you like this video, and happy sloth drawing.